Hi, welcome back. So today we have a quiz. Don't forget your quiz today. Don't be late for the quiz. And your homework. Make sure you do the homework. Okay, so today we will talk about chapter 7.3. The list, how to find the least common denominator. We will use some technique about how to find the greatest common factor to find our least common denominator. Okay, for example, if I want to find the least common denominator of 8 and 6, how would you do? Remember how we found the greatest common factor? So since they can all both divide by 2, right? So 8 divided by 2, we have 4 left. And then 6 divided by 2, we will have 3. Okay, so remember this part is our greatest common factor. Now for the least common denominator is we need to use this whole thing and multiply together. So that would be 2 times 4 times 3, which is 24. So 24 is our least common denominator. Okay, now let's apply to these to our variables. Now I want you to find the least common denominator of 4x squared y to the 5th and 6x to the 4th y squared and z to the 6th. We use the same method. Okay, 4x squared y to the 5th and then 6x 4th y squared and z to the 6th. Okay, let's find the greatest common factor first. Well, the first thing I can see is 2, right? We have 4 and 6. And then for x, we have x squared and x to the 4th. So the common factor should be s to the 2nd power. So what's left? We have a y to the 5th. On here, we have 3 times y squared and z to the 6th. And now we continue. Okay, y to the 5th and y squared. So the common factor in this part, this layer should be y squared. So what's left is y to the 3rd and then 3 times z to the 6th. Okay, so which one is our common factor? So the greatest common factor would be 2x squared and y squared, right? But our least common denominator should be 2x squared times y squared times y to the 3rd times 3 times z s to the 6th. We need to multiply these 4 terms together. So you will end up to have 12x to the 4th, y to the 5th, and z to the 6th. So this one is your least common denominator. So the same pattern, we can use it on the polynomial that have more than one terms. However, before we use it, apply it to the polynomial, the first step we always want to do is we want to factor each polynomial first. Okay, for example, if I want you to find the least common denominator of x squared plus 2x minus 3 and x squared minus x subtract 12. First step is you want to factor first. Then you will notice how many factors do they have, right? So for x squared plus 2x minus 3, when you factor, I use AC method. I have x plus 3 times x minus 1. So for the second one, I have x squared minus x minus 12. Again, AC method. I have x minus 4 times x plus 3. So now I just need to find the least common factor of these two polynomials. Okay, so I have x plus 3 times x minus 1, x minus 4 times x plus 3. Okay, what's the common factor? X plus 3. So after x plus 3, what's remain? X minus 1, and then x minus 4. Okay, so the least common denominator is what? You multiply the terms together. 1, 2, 3. You multiply them together, so you will have the least common denominator. Okay, so let's try another example. If I want you to find the least common denominator of x squared minus 10x plus 25 and x squared minus 14x plus 45. What's the first step? So the first step is to factor it first. So each polynomial, I want to factor it separately. For the first one, I have x minus 5 squared, right? The perfect square formula. And then the second one, I use AC method. So I have x subtract, which two numbers multiplied together equals to 45. I have 5 and 9, and then I want these two numbers add together equals to negative 14. So that means I'm looking for negative 5 and negative 9. Okay, so now let's find the least common denominator of these two polynomials. Okay, so what's the common factor? Obvious is x minus 5. So after you use x minus 5 squared divided by x minus 5, what you remain is another term of x minus 5, and then x plus 9. Oh, x subtract 9, sorry. So here, what do we have? The least common denominator is what? These three terms multiply together. We have a 2 x minus 5, so that's why square times x minus 9. Okay, so why do we need to find the least common denominator? So let's do some reminder. So when we do the fraction operation, the subtraction and the addition, 4 over 5 subtract 3 over 2, how would you do? The first step is what? You want to find the least common denominator first. By what? Okay, 5 and 2, the least common denominator would be 10. So that means for the first equation, I need to multiply 2 on the top and bottom. For the second one, in order to get to the denominator 10, I need to multiply 5, top and bottom. So I have 8 over 10, subtract 8 over 10. Oh, sorry, 15 over 10. Okay, and then what? You keep the numerator the same, but you operate. You keep the denominator the same. You just operate the numerator, which means you use 8 subtract 15 over 10. So I have what? Negative 7 over 10. So we can apply these to our polynomial operation. Okay, I have a 5a over 3a squared to the b equals to 6a 5 to the third. Okay, So I want you to identify the factor that we need, what factor we need to match. Let's say this is 1. To match our, to match this one. To match our new denominator. So look, we have 3a squared times b. We want to multiply something, then we have 6a to the 5th, b to the 3rd. What would that be? So we need 2 times a. Well, you have a squared in here. How many a do you need to get to a to the 5th power? We need 3a, right? And then b squared. Then you will get to the denominator 6 times a to the 5th, b to the 3rd. Okay. But when you multiply this part, 2 times a cubed b squared, you need to multiply the top and bottom. Like our example here, you can just multiply the bottom. You need to multiply the denominator and the numerator. So that we have what? 5a over 3a squared to b. We want to times 2a to the 3rd b squared over 2a to the 3rd b squared. In the bottom, we have 6a to the 5th b to the cube. The top, we have 10 to the a to the 4th and b squared. Okay. Okay, next try something. So if I have x minus 2 over x plus 4 equals to, I don't know the top, but I know that the bottom is equals to x squared plus 7x plus 12. What would you do? The first step is you want to factor this part first and see what will be the common factor between these two rational expressions, right? So when I factor it, I have the bottom is what? X squared plus 7x plus 12. I use the AC method. I will end up to have x plus 4 and x plus 3. Okay, and then what is the missing factor here? So this is x plus 4. This is x plus 4 times x plus 3. So the missing factor is x plus 3. So that means we want to multiply x plus 3 on the top and the bottom for the first rational expression. So top and the bottom. So we will end up to have what? S minus 2 times s plus 3 over s plus 4 times s plus 3. Now we simplify it by FOIL it. Then we have what? X squared plus x minus 6 over x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay. Now we know how to find the least common denominator and how to build up the fraction to the desired denominator. So now we can combine them together to find the least common, to do the fraction operation. Okay, such as we build up each fraction so that they will have the common denominator. For example, I have 5a over 4 times b to the c and 3c over 6a squared to the b. Okay, So how do I get these two to have a common denominator? The first, I need to identify the least common denominator first. Okay, I have 4b cubed times c and then 6 times a squared to the b. Common factor is what? 2b. What's left? 2b squared times c and then 3a squared. So the least common denominator would be what? You multiply all these terms together. Which is equals to what? 12a squared b to the cube to the c. So now we need to know what's the missing factor for each term. Okay, for the first term, it's 4b cubed times c, right? The factor, it has 2b and 2b squared c. And the common factor is this part. That means the first one, the missing factor is what? 3a squared. Whereas the second terms, the missing factor is what? 2b squared c. Well, as you can see, this is what they're missing. Okay, so what would you do? What you would do is you multiply the missing factors. For example, the first one, you're missing 3a, right? So that means I want to multiply 3a over 3a squared on the top and bottom. And then I have 3c, the second term, says a b squared, which is the missing 2 times b squared c over 2 times b squared c. Okay, so for the first term, I have 15a to the cube over 12a squared b cubed c. The second term, I will end up with 6b squared c squared over 12a squared b to the cube, oops, b to the cube times c. Look, these two have a common factor now after we build up the fractions. Okay, let's give another example. If I given you, I want you to build up each fraction so that these two fractions, they will have a common denominator. Okay, look, 5x over x squared minus 5x plus 6, or minus 6. And the second expression would be x minus 2 over x squared plus 4x plus 3. What's the first step? The first step is you want to factor them first. Okay, for the first expression, when you factor it, we use AC method. We will end up with x minus 6 times x plus 1. The second one, I will have s plus 3 and then s plus 1. Okay, and then the second step is we want to identify what the least common denominator. So now we have these two factors. What's their common factor? X plus 1, right? And then the remainder would be x minus 2, x plus 3. Okay, so that means the least common denominator would be x plus 1 times x minus 6 times x plus 3. Good. Now the next step is we want to identify what's the missing factors for each expression so that we can multiply it so we can build up our fraction. Okay, so the missing factors for the first expression, like I say. So the first expression, it contains x plus 1 and x minus 2. But the least common factor has what? X plus 3. So that means the missing factor for the first one would be x plus 3. And then for the second one, it has x plus 3 and x plus 1. And we want to have what? X minus 6 to reach the least common denominator, right? So take a look. Like I say, this one missing this part, and then this one missing the blue highlighted part. Okay, and now we can build up our fraction now. So I have a 5x over x minus 6, and then x plus 1. I want to times x plus 3 over x plus 3. And then for the second expression, I have x plus 2 over x plus 3 times x plus 1. I want to times x minus 3 on the top and bottom, so that now they will have a common factor. Well, the next step is you can FOIL it. So I have what, 5x squared plus 15x over x minus 6, x plus 1, x plus 3. And then on this one, I FOIL it. I will end up to have x squared minus 8x. Oh, this is minus 12. Subtract. And then plus 12. And then x minus 6, x plus 1, and then x plus 3. Okay. So that's it for today. Today we learned how to build up a two rational expression. We want to build up that they will have a common, the least common denominator. Okay, don't forget the homework. That's it for today. Have a good night.